Welcome, family. Welcome, people. It's you with your boy, Deji Spurs, aka the Arsenal Slayer, the Tottenham Van Helsing. And I've got a special match preview show here today. I'm with one of my good friends, John. John, who is a lifelong Luton fan. John, welcome to the channel. How are you?
I'm very well, Deji. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Brilliant. And I can see that you're sporting the Luton kind of backdrop there, the the kind of sign, and I love it, John. So, John, what I wanted to do is just find out from you. Obviously, the season started, but how did you become a Luton fan? And how's it been? Yeah.
No choice in the matter. It goes all the way back to my granddad, who started to go to Luton after he was demobbed from the war. And at that time, they lived in Bedfordshire, so it was the closest ground to go to. And then my dad got involved, and then I followed, So I went to my first game, 1977, 7 years old.
Yeah.
And have been going ever since to a ground that, apart from this season, a ground that hasn't changed at all. But we got a new stand this season.
Awesome, yeah. And I think I remember seeing like a YouTube clip of, is it like a chip shop or something that you can literally walk through a shop and then you can get into one of the stands over at the ground?
So it's become a bit of a kind of internet meme as to for the away fans.
Yeah.
You have to go through an exit and then you go up some stairs and you go over people's gardens.
No way.
So you literally look at what people have got hanging on their washing line.
No way.
Yeah, no. And the thing about the Kenny is it is ramshackle, it is falling down, but it's a proper football ground.
Yeah.
Going to Everton at the weekends. I'd never been to Goodison Park before, and it's the same thing. Those grounds now aren't particularly fit for purpose, particularly in this day and age. But when you're going into a proper football ground.
Yeah, because you can feel the history in the room.
Yeah.
Feel it. I think that's something that's important. I think that's something that Spurs have kind of missed, to be honest. As flashy as our stadium is, and it's all the glitz and the glam. Actually, I think that's part of the reason why we lost a bit of connection with the fans.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I've been to your ground a couple of times, and it's beautiful. It is the best football stadium I've ever been in. But I think when things don't go your way, it starts to feel slightly disconnected. Whereas Old White Hart Lane, again, proper football ground, that never happened. But it's a compromise, isn't it? You've got a world-class facility there, and I imagine that as you are doing very well at the moment, it feels banging. But it can also feel. I think those kind of grounds can also feel very quiet.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, John, I just want to pick up on that fact because actually I forgot that you guys played yesterday, but you guys picked up your first win and you were at the ground.
Yeah.
What was that like? How did the boys do it? I think you've had it coming, to be fair, and it was a matter of time, but just talk us briefly through that.
Yeah, we were, it was a joyous experience. I think the last top flight win we had was in 1992 when I was there against Villa. So to wait kind of 31 years for your next one and to be there as well was really special. So it was great, and what was great about it was that, not that you'd know it from our coverage particularly, but we have improved every game and we've had to learn really, really quickly. And this is a tough league. This is probably tougher than I imagined it would be. Yeah. The pace of it, the speed of it, it's been a baptism of fire for us. But, we've been competitive. And I think that Saturday was a culmination of us getting better every game. And I think we were worthy winners, and which is why last night was so disappointing, because for the first time, and maybe it was because we were favourites to win that game last night, which of course we haven't been before. Suddenly, it felt nervy. It felt like there was another sort of pressure on us. And first half, we weren't at it, and then go a goal down, and then you're chasing, and then you get an equaliser, which we deserved from our pressure, and then you get a sucker punch. 65 seconds later. So, yeah, if you'd have been talking to me yesterday at this time, I would have been full of it. But it was a gut punch. It really was.
No, but I think when you look at it, and forgive me for not knowing the full accuracy, but Luton have literally been on the upward trajectory. What would you say? What the last 7 to 9 years? It's just been going up. Yeah, I mean, what could you just talk us briefly through that so that people understand this journey? Because actually, it's pretty impressive
when we first met, we were in the conference. So I feel like you have been on this journey with me.
Yeah, damn.
And because we chatted about it all the time. What our reality was at that particular time, and I was going to away games in Nuneaton and Ebbsfleet, and and just suddenly where we're going to away games at Everton and Chelsea and Brighton. So that steady trajectory has been just fantastic to be a part of that as a fan, and it's been done so sensibly. We at every measure. I mean, we were one of the lowest wage payers in the Championship, let alone the Premier League. So the stewardship of the club has just been amazing, and those people deserve huge credit, and it's reflected in our recruitment. It's that they're fans. And the last thing they want to do is to make decisions that put the future of this club at risk. Because, it's interesting, it's great what happened, or what seems to be happening at Southend yesterday. Yeah. Because what you only know it as a fan if you've been through that existential crisis where it could be there's a very real possibility that you don't have a football team to support. Yeah. Never mind about, we were unlucky and we should have done this. It's like, I wouldn't have known what to do. I would have been absolutely bereft. So to see the club rise as it has, and to have done it in such a constructive, positive way, we haven't had millions ploughed into us by any means.
The right way, in my opinion.
It is.
No, I totally agree, and like you said, John. I've been watching the journey over the last 10 years or so, and it's a pleasure. And for me, that's what I think every club, that's the model. You need to work for it. You need to build a business case. And I guess, in a sense, Spurs are quite similar. We haven't had masses of money. We've had to be strategic. We've had to invest well and then turn the stadium into a kind of cash cow, as it were, so that we can bring the revenue in, so that we can play the players. And in the same sort of vein, Luton are going about the business, making clever signings, bringing in the right person. And then even your manager, I really like him, very composed. I remember watching the game when you guys played against Chelsea. I thought you was unlucky in that game. But, very down to earth, really believes in the players. And, I think it's Adebayo who plays on the left wing. What a player, and I just like the whole atmosphere that they're building. And I hope that, Luton can continue to rise and do well, and the fact that they made it into the Prem, it's a tremendous testament to the work that the club is doing behind the scenes. John, you probably would have heard by now, and there's a lot of Liverpool fans, I'm in and ahhing. I'm going to just say to you now, I'm absolutely shameless about the Spurs result on the weekend. The amount of times Liverpool have stolen points from Spurs, may I remind viewers of the Champions League final, after 2 minutes, the ball hit into Sissoko's hand, and there's been other incidences where I think was it Suarez or one of the players literally had a high boot in Skippy's face. Nothing was done.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's just rewards that what happened on the weekend. But your view from an outside perspective, were you happy for Spurs to get the 3 points over Liverpool finally? Or do you think VAR is just completely destroying the game?
I think both things can be true. I was delighted. I was watching the last 15 minutes in a hotel room in Liverpool on Saturday, and my reaction when he hoofed it into his own net was just to laugh.
Yeah.
I just thought it was funny, and I think you and I both have Liverpool friends in common, and we love them dearly. But that sense of entitlement sometimes can be really boring.
Yeah.
And you're right. And we've all had bad decisions. We had a penalty shout which wasn't even looked at last night. We had a handball against West Ham wasn't even looked at. I don't like VAR, and I coming up from the Championship where you don't have it, I've really felt that it does. I just don't see the benefit of it, especially when you've got human beings making mistakes. That's what happened before VAR. They made mistakes, and everybody, this whole thing about Liverpool fans putting a petition to replay the game. Just come on, move on. Every club can point to bad decisions. That's how it is.
Mate, I'm happy to replay the game. In fact, I'm happy to give Liverpool fans the 3 points if they give us the Champions League. To be honest with you, because I'm
replay that.
Yeah, let's replay the Champions League final. Yeah. And then we can talk about that. So yeah, I'm not hearing that, and I'm not into that. I'm in full agreement with you. For me, I actually like the fact that there was human error. I actually found that referees were more 9 out of 10 times their decision making was more accurate. I almost feel like because VAR is there, maybe that extra yard that they would take on the line, that care. Oh well, VAR will confirm and whisper in my ear if it's an offside. That whole thing's going on, and it's actually, like you said, ruining the game. The other thing is when you start having silly rules like, is it someone's nose? Because if someone's got a big nose, that means they're offside. I mean, it really starts to get a bit stupid. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you have that feeling. When something looks okay. Yeah. And that thing about then going back and then suddenly seeing somebody's stud that's offside and the goal's ruled out. And it's like, no, it was fine. Nobody would have had a problem about it.
Yeah.
Don't mess with something. Because also I'm finding now that, you put the ball in the net and you're kind of going, oh, we might have scored.
Yeah.
And that's not, the football, watching football is all about the joy of the ball hitting the back of the net. That's what you're there for. That's the beautiful thing. And to have that kind of messed around with, it's just I don't get it. I don't get it.
I agree. I mean, players score and they look up rather than celebrating. They look at the screen to see if VAR is called for an offside.
Exactly.
It is ridiculous. Big up to Hashim Niaz. He's a school teacher in the building. He's tuning in on his phone whilst on a lunch break. Big up to you. Thank you
well done, Hashim,
for being in this space with us. So, John, look, Tottenham v Liverpool. I mean, not v Liverpool, but Tottenham. That was Tottenham-Liverpool on the weekend. We got the 3 points. Tottenham are second. I have I'm not shaking my bum at the moment. I'm not. Last season, I got caught with my pants down because I had Spurs to win the league, and it was a total disaster. So I've been called out. People want me to commit to what Tottenham's going to do this season, and I've refused to start shaking my bum just yet. But I have to say, Ange Postecoglou, what a signing, mate. What a signing. I mean, he's got Tottenham playing some sexy stuff after, and he's only been in the job three months. So it's exciting.
And what's it like to have a manager who supporters of other teams quite like? I mean, that's a new experience for you, isn't it? Recently, after Mourinho and Conte.
Yeah, you know what? It's just a breath of fresh air because he's so down to earth, and you could just listen to him all day, and you can just see that he's genuine. I think for us, why we love him so much is Mourinho and Conte. It always felt like they were doing us a favor. We're the big guns. We're
Yeah,
bigger than the club. We're
yeah,
doing you a favor. We're bringing the spotlight on you. Whereas with Postecoglou, he's more like, I love this space, mate. Look at the facilities. I mean, I'm grateful to wake up and have to go to Hotspur Way because that's where my office is. And look
yeah,
where I get to work week in, week out. So that you can feel that appreciation, but also, um, with the way he handles the media, the way he's handling the players, you can see that it's definitely feeding on the player. Every player is happy. Even
yeah,
James, look at Madison.
yeah,
He's saying he's probably the best gaffer he's worked under, and he's only just arrived.
yeah, yeah.
And you can see it in our performances. I hope that Daniel Levy doesn't do a boo-boo because I just feel like in football we have something called the goldfish. I do feel it was harsh for Spurs to get rid of Pochettino when you look at the work he had done over the 5 years.
Undoubtedly, yeah.
I just hope we don't do something like that with Postecoglou because we're chasing something that is realistic or not. You got to remember we're in a Premier League where Man City is the dominant force. You've got the likes of Liverpool, you've got Arsenal, we had Chelsea, we had United. There's a lot of bloody you got Newcastle these days, you know what I mean? Villa and Brighton now. I mean,
Yeah.
just to get top four, you've bloody done well. That should be seen as a trophy, to be honest.
I think that's true. I think you're kind of looking nowadays at the Premier League being almost three separate leagues, I would say.
100%.
And that top section is very crowded, I think.
Yeah.
But what I like about Postecoglou, and I think the same thing goes for De Zerbi at Brighton, is that he just wants players to express themselves. And if it goes wrong, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just do it again.
Yeah.
And I think that's really refreshing. As opposed to what you had previously, which is players seem so scared to make a mistake because they knew they'd be chewed out.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why, people were writing off Basuma last season. I said, look, remember Basuma with Brighton.
Yeah.
How you can write it's Conte. And, sometimes you can be putting all your kind of negative comments on the players, but sometimes it's not the players. Maybe it's the manager. Actually. And maybe it's the system that they're playing. I mean, for Spurs, he's inherited pretty much most of that. All of those players, apart from the goalkeeper, Mickey van der Ven and Madison, those were Spurs players. Sarr was already there. Basuma was already there, couldn't get a sniff. Udogie was bought and sent back. How can you send a quality player like Udogie back on loan when you got Ben Davis? I mean, oh gosh, that Conte is a madman, but he did crazy things. Apparently, Pedro Porro couldn't play right back. He had to be a wing back. Look at him. Again, another inherited player. Richarlison inherited. Just shows what man management can really do. But yeah,
it's so true. I know that when Basuma was at Brighton, basically either Potter or De Zerbi just used to say, just go and do your thing, just do your Basuma thing, and he was very happy doing that. He's not someone who wants to be told to go and stand in a particular square meterage, and he just wants to do his thing. And that again, what I'm saying, just let players be. Let them do their thing, and that's what seems to be what Postecoglou is doing. He's getting the best out of players.
Yeah, no, 100%. So moving now into the game this weekend between Spurs and Luton, it's a 12:30 kickoff. Bloody hell, it's a bloody early one.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the way Spurs are set up. Obviously, we're going to be looking at for the team news. Brennan Johnson, I think, was a big miss against Liverpool. I would have liked him, but I think Richarlison did a job. I think for me this season, Tottenham's strength has also been Tottenham's weakness, meaning that our front three. I think defensively, I'm quite happy with Udogie, Mickey van der Ven, Romero, Porro. That partnership's working. Vicario, I have to apologise to you. John, I labelled him as vicarious liability at the beginning of the season because he looked a bit shaky. But I have to tell you, Vicario is a top-notch keeper. What a player, what a game. Midfield, It's looking like Basuma, Sarr, Maddison. What a midfield three, actually. I would argue and say they probably up there as in the top three of the midfield three in the Prem. And then it's looking like Kulusevski, Son down the middle. And I know Postecoglou was watching last week's stream because I told him we don't want to see Richarlison as a number 9. We want to see Richarlison on the left. And he did that, and it worked a treat against Liverpool.
I think as well another good piece of man management is that if he does that, Richarlison doesn't feel like he has to be a Harry Kane replacement. He can be his own player.
Yeah, no, 100%. But also at Watford and at Everton, that's what he was doing. He was coming in off the left. But also, you're right, it does take the pressure off him because actually now everyone's focused on Son, and actually we've seen Richarlison now be involved in a goal. He scored and he's now had 2 assists. So he's already eclipsed his performance of last season. So depending on how we set up, I would say our front three is our strength. But also potentially if he decides to go with a Manuel Solomon, he's okay. But again, you know, I don't know if he's got enough in his locker to unpick the Luton.
So answer me this, Dej. Does with that front three, does Son play at the point of that?
Yes.
Right.
Now he has. Yeah, that's what we've been doing now, and it's worked so far. To be fair, he started that when we played Arsenal.
Yeah.
He decided to go Son down the middle, and it worked. No, actually against Burnley, that's when he first put that system in place, and it's worked a treat. And that's how we've seen Son scored 6 goals since he's made that switch. To be fair.
Yeah.
So yeah, he'll be at the point of the attack, and then what that does is I'm not sure how Luton play. I know you're going to share with us now, but if you play a high line, that's where Spurs will be licking their lips because you play a high line, Son in through the back, through ball, Son on goal, and that's how we've been scoring our goals. But yeah. So John, what are your strengths? What are Luton's weaknesses, and how do you set up?
So I mean, we don't play a high line. We can't. We tried it a little bit against Brighton and paid the price. We have a block that is so low. It is the lowest block you've ever seen in your life. So, and also we've got Tom Lockyer, who's our captain and club legend. I love the guy, and he's becoming Mr. Luton. But bless him, he's not blessed with pace. So you know we cannot afford, and we've been caught a couple of times leaving too much space behind us. Having said that, where we do have a lot of pace is both flanks.
Yeah, I did.
So,
them, is it?
Adebayo, he's not starting at the moment, but he's coming on he scored last night, which is great. But you've got Jacob Brown one side, you've got Chio Bene, who is, I believe, the fastest player in the Premier League this season.
No way.
Yes. No, I'm looking forward to if he matches up with Van der Ven, that's like an Olympic 100 meters final. I mean, there's a lot of pace there. And the same with our wing backs, Alfie Doughty, who's been terrific this season on the left, Issa Kabore, who we got on loan from Man City on the right, again, very, very pacey. So that's where we tend to do our attacking. So I would say, does Udogie and Porro play as
they do inverted, and they do the inverted thing as well. So they push up.
I would say that they probably need to have quite strong neck muscles because they're gonna be watching the ball coming over their heads. Yowzers!
Damn it! I mean, for me, we could just see in the Liverpool game that Spurs, but it's been Spurs' Achilles heel. Doesn't matter what manager we have, we just can't play against the low block. We brought James Maddison in for that reason, I think.
Yeah.
Spurs low block usually equals draw, in my opinion. It's interesting that you've got pace, but yeah.
You're going to have all the possession. You know, I would say your possession is probably going to be around the 80% mark. You know, so and to a certain extent, Maddison scares me a little bit because he can do like his assist against Arsenal when he got that's the kind of thing that we don't do well against. And I worry about your midfield. Last night against Burnley, we left far too much space in the middle of the park. But I'm hoping, again, like Luton have done this season, we'll learn from that. We can't do that, But we've got, marvellous Nakamba, who's I think has the record for the most tackles won as a midfielder in the Premier League. He's terrific, but again, not blessed with enormous pace.
Yeah,
smart. So I think the midfield is where it's gonna be won and lost.
Yeah,
and we've got to have a better plan for you guys.
Yeah, I mean the strange thing for us Spurs fans this season is that every game we've played, we've dominated possession. Bearing in mind we spent the last 4 years not touching the ball, it's actually a breath of fresh air. And actually, one of the things that Postecoglou is doing with the ball possession is he's having teams do doggies. Like you can see, people talk about Tottenham's fitness, but I think Tottenham's fitness is down to the fact that we've got the ball. It's easy to be fit when you've got the ball all the time. When you're doing doggies, you will run out of steam eventually, and that might just be Luton's Achilles heel. If we have around 80% possession, like you're saying or suggesting, then it will be difficult. The other thing that might be in Spurs' factor is so far, I think we've got, we pretty much won all of our away games, barring the Arsenal game, to be fair.
Yeah, you've had your little bits of luck at home, haven't you? You haven't needed it on way.
Yeah, so we've been picking up points, doing quite well away. I guess the key thing for me is, we're not sure on Brennan Johnson, we're not sure on Maddison, but if those two players play or are available, I think James Maddison is the key. He's been so good, we don't miss Kane.
Yeah,
I regret the fact that we didn't have the opportunity to see Kane and Maddison together, because that could have been a match made in heaven, to be honest. They could have been really running things in the Prem this season. But I have to say, Maddison's picked up the Kane mantle, because I don't miss Kane with Maddison playing. I don't need him to score goals. He's feeding. He's like a chef. He's just feeding the players food constantly.
I think Maddison is one of those players who likes the attention, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And I think he's really enjoyed the fact that he's been casted centrally as the guy who's changed the team. I think if Kane had still been there, I don't think that would have been true necessarily.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point, to be honest. And because it is, because the way he kind of he's assistant captain, but the way he's kissing the badge, loving the club. You would have thought that James Maddison grew up a Spurs fan, but a couple of years ago he was spouting on Twitter that he hates Spurs. But so it's funny. But here he is, and he loving the club till he dies, putting his whole heart on the line. So look, I think it's going to be a really good game. I think it's going to be tight. The one thing I'm worried about with Spurs is we haven't been to that kind of stadium in a while. Do you know what I mean? Like a real gritty, stadium, like Luton, it's very close. Fans are close to the players. Are you going to the game, John, by any chance?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, be able to hear, and I think that could be a factor, the crowd behind the players. But my heart is saying, I'm hoping that Tottenham can continue the good run. If Spurs win, then this might be the best start under a manager since the 1960s. Right now, Postecoglou has equaled Tottenham's best ever start. But if somehow we're able to pick up 3 points against you guys this weekend, then that's got to go down as Tottenham's best start in recent time. I don't really have any of the stats to hand. I'm hoping for a 2-1 Spurs. I do think Luton will score. I just think the atmosphere, the pace of the game, you guys can score goals. but I think maybe the ball possession wise and the players get leggy. The other thing is are you used to playing that amount of games? I know in the Championship you do play midweek, and then but also because the level's just gone up a notch. Are the players, would they have recovered in time as well because they got the early kickoff?
That's a good point. But yeah, I mean, you do. I mean, obviously, you know, it's much more intense, but you do get used to playing a lot of games in the Championship. We also, you know, we got used to playing at 12:30 in the afternoon as well. We had a lot of those games. Yeah. So yeah, that doesn't worry me. I think your point about the stadium is right, and I think it's not just that it's tight and it's packed in the flat. I've done a tour of those changing rooms. I would be surprised. I mean, there'll be, you know, I would imagine you'd have to have a rota as to who can go in there anyway, because it's tiny.
Bloody hell.
It's not something that
it's guerrilla warfare.
It is. So I first goal will be crucial. First goal, if you get an early first goal, I would be severely worried.
Yeah.
If we can keep it tight, if we can nick the first goal, then I think it's game on. Deji, you could absolutely batter us. But also it's one of those games where, you know, you just think if we're going to start making it, you know, if we're going to take some trophies from big clubs, I think Saturday
is the time.
It's the time to do it, but you know, it could go.
That's what worries me. I just feel like Luton, it's got the whole London thing involved, and I just feel like, you know, Spurs are just one of those teams where Luton are probably looking at it thinking, yeah, we can knock these guys off their high horse right now, and that's what scares me right now. I mean, I watched the game against Chelsea, and I thought for a good spell. Was it 1-0 that you lost to Chelsea?
Yeah, we ended up losing 3-0, but it was two late goals.
Yeah, but it was pretty even. You know, you had a good crack. Yeah. You had a crack at them, and I remember thinking, "Oh, you know, I'm not sure if I feel comfortable around this." Yeah, look, like I said, I'm hoping Spurs can do something, but I'm under no illusion it's going to be a tough game. Like the fact that you've got the low block, you're not going to do Burnley. Burnley, we knew that Company wanted to try something new, and he's going to go gun ho, and he's going to learn from his mistake.
Yeah,
your manager is not so naive, if I could say that. I think he's.
I think the thing with Company is, and it was interesting watching them last night. I think we showed them far too much respect last night. I think Burnley had just walked that title last season. You know, they didn't break sweat, and I think it's really difficult for clubs coming into the Premier League, and Norwich always used to do it. Norwich always used to absolutely run away with the Championship, and then get into the Premier League and then not really know how to do it differently. And that's when you get picked off, and that's what you did to Burnley. You just picked them off. So whereas I think we had to dig a lot of results out last season. So we are kind of quite battle hardened, and that's what makes us pragmatic as well, in a good way. But I mean, like I said, you were speaking to me this time yesterday. I don't think I'm confident. I'm not so confident.
Well, we'll let's see. You know, the thing about me realizing that you guys lost is that reaction, isn't it? And they're in front of their home crowd now, and they want to bring out the reaction. Hopefully, they don't react too well against Spurs this weekend. But you beat the bloody Gooners when you've got them coming up. What? Just finally, John. I mean, it's been a pleasure. I mean, you've given us a whistle-stop tour of Luton and you know the brief history and where you are so far. Realistically, what are you hoping for this season? I mean, it's obvious. Not don't say the obvious, because we know you want to be in the Prem. But what could this team achieve?
I think what I've enjoyed is seeing after 7 games a way that we can stay up. That there's a plan. We are going to take some batterings. We are. That's the nature of the thing. But I think that it's not so much that you're looking at it going, well, just fingers crossed, we'll just put 11 players behind the ball. There's a plan. We've got enough of a threat. If we could put the ball in the back of the net, that would help. But we create enough chances. We get the ball into the box. Our crossing statistics are tremendous. So I can see a way that we can stay up, but it's gonna take some luck, and we've had a couple of injuries already, which has not been helpful. Hopefully, Ross Barkley is back.
Yeah, what a player
on Saturday. That would be a huge bonus.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, God, if we could finish above the bottom three, that would be massive. It's already massive. It doesn't matter if we go down, because we've already achieved something huge, and we're all the better for it as a club. But I would, we've also had a lot of supporters from bigger clubs on Twitter giving us a load of grief about not deserving to be there, and I think we fulfilled the criteria. It wasn't like it wasn't.
You did what you did, and you got there. You didn't cheat, did you? You didn't buy your way into the league. You done it.
I think it would be really nice to sort of stick that back in people's faces. But yeah, just to stay competitive, Deji. I think if we're still in with a realistic chance with 6, 7, 8 games of the season left, I think we will have done really, really well.
Yeah. Well, fair play. Well, good luck, John.
Good luck to you too.
Season. Do you know what I mean? Let's have a good game on the weekend. Hopefully Spurs get 3 points. But for me, I'm rooting for Luton behind the scenes. We want you to stay good old-fashioned English club, doing it the right way. We need to be supporting Luton Town. Let them stay up. But as for this weekend, for now, we need this train, this Snowpiercer to just keep rolling forward. But yeah, thank you, John. Thank you all for viewing. And come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Atters.